Cheryl Collins claims she got stuck paying the bill after a first date snuck out mid-meal. Jason Sutton says he invited the plaintiff for drinks only, but she showed up late, then ignored him, so he bailed.
Good day. I see I've got Cheryl Collins here as my plaintiff and Jason Sutton as my defendant. Ms. Collins, I see you are suing Mr. Sutton for $218.69. Why are we in court today, ma'am?
Well, Your Honor, last May the 20th, Mr. Sutton here invited me out on a date and then proceeded to walk out on the tab.
This man asked you to go with him on a date and then he left before the bill came?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-oh. Tell me more. Let's start with, how did y'all meet? How do you know this man?
So, I'm a social media influencer, and Mr. Sutton, the defendant, came on my page.
He slid into your DMs?
Yes,
okay.
Essentially. And we were discussing and we were talking for a couple weeks, and we were just chatting over the phone. And he originally asked me out on a couple dates, first one being coffee and the second one being ice cream.
So those dates took place?
No, ma'am.
Oh.
I don't drink coffee, first off. And secondly, I'm lactose intolerant, so we did not do coffee, nor did we do ice cream.
So you declined those dates?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, continue, ma'am.
Well, after we had continued talking, he shortly after decided to ask me out on a date. And we decided on dinner Friday at 5:30. Unfortunately, our original timing did not quite work out with my schedule. I had to reschedule on him twice. First time being with work, I was on a fashion shoot, and my shoot lasted a little bit longer than I was anticipating.
That happens.
So,
because this is how you pay your bills, I assume, ma'am. You're a full-time influencer.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I do think sometimes people hear that, Ms. Collins, and they can be dismissive. But the reality is some of these social media influencers are making over $100,000 a year. So, and you're presenting very beautifully to the court today. So this is, something that's lucrative for you. So you do have to show up to these things.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so your shoot runs long. You have to reschedule.
Yes, that was the first one. Second, I ended up having to reschedule on him a second time because my father did fall ill, and he lives. Thank you.
Yeah.
He does live nearby, so I tend to go over there and take care of him every now and again.
Okay, so there's two reschedules. He's understanding, I suppose, and then how do you actually get on the date?
Well, eventually our schedules ended up working out, and we were able to make it on time.
Great.
So we scheduled for 5:30 on a Friday, and I was a little bit late.
How late, ma'am?
We scheduled for 5:30. I showed up at 6:15.
45 minutes late.
Mr. Sutton, I promise you I did not fail math. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Okay, 45 minutes late, ma'am. That's not a little. Go ahead.
I got stuck in traffic.
Ma'am, come on, please, go ahead.
So I showed up at 6:15, and that was when our date proceeded.
And how was his energy when you showed up 45 minutes late? Because this is the first time y'all are seeing each other in person, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see that doesn't make like a great impression. So to the extent he was excited to see and meet you finally, that might be compromised after 45 minutes of waiting on someone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, but you get there. How was it? Did he look like his pictures? Because that's very important.
Yeah, actually, he looked a little bit better than his pictures, to be honest. He's not very photogenic, but real life, doing pretty well.
Okay. Nice. No, I say that with sincerity because you're right. Most of the time, that's not the case. Continue, ma'am. Okay, so you see him in person. He looks better than his photos. What does he say to you?
Very, very small chit-chat, just pleasantries in regards to when I show up. And I'm a little frantic because I know that I'm running late, so...
Were you apologetic, ma'am?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. So sitting down, the waiter originally comes over, and I go ahead and I order myself a margarita because they're my favorite. And I have not eaten all that day, so I'm starving. So I originally go ahead with my margarita, order a calamari as well.
Okay.
And
did you ask him if he wanted anything to eat, ma'am? No, I'm just, because we're getting your order in, but
Well, I assumed that he would have ordered something if he wanted anything.
So the answer is no.
No,
At this
I did
point,
not
you
ask.
just ordered your margarita and your calamari. Okay.
Yes,
And
he
that's
had a
just-
drink already.
Okay. Well, I would hope so if he was sitting there waiting for you for 65 minutes. That's my rule. Once you are 1 second late, the party starts, honey. Okay? It's drinks and food.
Coming up on Equal Justice.
By the time the waiter brings over the food and the margarita, she is on her phone. She's on social media. She's posting, and she starts acting like I'm not even there.
Equal Justice is back with the case of Cheryl Collins, who blames Jason Sutton for ghosting her mid-date.
And then do you proceed to order more food?
Yes.
Okay. What
Later
did you
on.
order, ma'am?
Well, after I finished the original appetizer, I went ahead and I ordered another drink. And
Also a margarita?
yes,
Because I just want a visual. Okay, go ahead.
yes. And I don't really like to drink on an empty stomach, so I not only had the calamari, but I also had the fried alligator was my second. Yeah, it was very interesting. And
Now, was that just still a starter, or have we gotten to your entree yet?
no, that was just the starter.
Okay, let's go. What did you get for your entree, ma'am?
I got a salmon.
Okay, so you had the calamari, you had the fried alligator, you've had 2 margaritas at this point, and now you've got a plate of salmon?
Yes.
Okay, and did you get any more cocktails?
I did get one more cocktail.
Okay, so you had
with my
3
dinner.
drinks. Okay. Do you have an itemized bill that the court can look at, ma'am, and see?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and proffer that to my bailiff.
just have everything
I'll take
in the entire
everything.
folder?
Sure.
And while you are doing that, you know what they say about stories, there's 2 sides. Let me get to you, Mr. Sutton. Thank you for your patience here, sir. Let's get to what you can corroborate. You meet this woman on social media, she's very beautiful. You slide in her DMs, you start communicating.
Yes, Your Honor.
You find out that she's a social media influencer professionally, bada bing, bada boom, somebody's number is exchanged, y'all start talking on the phone.
Yes.
At what point, sir, do you decide, I am interested enough to take her on an in-person date?
Well, I was interested very early on. I asked her out 2 times. Both times she turned me down.
So then, after 2 cancellations, and did you believe those cancellations?
To be completely honest,
You better be, you're sworn in.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the first scenario, the modeling, I don't know much about it. I think she could have taken maybe 10 or 15 seconds just to send me something. She told me like 10 minutes before our date. I've already driven there. That was very upsetting to me.
Okay, she left that part out. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, and then as far as the second incident is
With her father's illness.
yes, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt.
No, I understand. The court agrees with that.
Yes.
Okay, so for finally,
Yes.
we get on a dinner date, and you concede, Mr. Sutton, that you did ask her on the 3rd date, and it was your idea to say, you know what? You don't like milk, you can't do lactose, you don't like coffee, let's go to dinner.
I said let's go to drinks, not dinner. I never said
See,
anything.
you got to clear it up. See, Mr. Sutton, because this is how I'm going to make my ruling. So you're telling the court that you said nothing about dinner. You said, let's go to drinks.
I said let's go to drinks.
Ms.
That's it.
Collins, did he say, let's go to drinks?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, continue, sir.
First, she reschedules twice, as we've mentioned, and then finally we lock in a date, and it's during happy hour.
I noticed that. I didn't want to say nothing.
5:30.
But when you said that y'all were meeting at 5:30, it's happy hour. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, and I made that explicit that I wanted to meet at happy
Oh,
hour.
you said that. Okay.
Yes.
And one thing I like about somebody that's direct is you know what to expect. So there's an indication when someone says, I want to take you out during happy hour, you know what time it is.
Serious.
Right? I mean, hello.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, sir. So you own that you are looking for a happy hour experience. Continue.
Yes, so I get there at 5:20, Your Honor, and I get a phone call from her at 5:25 saying she'll be a few minutes late.
Okay.
I interpreted few minutes as a few minutes. I guess
And
that
then
means
you
something else
found
to
out
her.
it was 45 minutes.
It was 45 minutes.
Right.
I ordered 1 margarita, and the waiter felt so bad for me, he slipped me another one at the happy hour
Aw.
price after 6 o'clock when that ended. She finally shows up at 6:15. I'm a little annoyed at this point,
I
but I'm
would
trying to
imagine.
keep it together.
Now, did she look like her photos?
She did. She was gorgeous.
Okay. No, she is.
Yeah. And she finally sits down, and the conversation
Was she
a little
apologetic when she showed up 45 minutes late, sir?
she mentioned it vaguely, but it was.
But you didn't really feel like it was
no,
heartfelt?
No,
Okay.
it felt very.
I don't know
cold.
why, but for some reason I suspected that. Okay.
Yes.
So she sits down, she orders herself a drink.
Yes. Well, she orders herself more than a drink. She orders a calamari as well. We have a very, very brief conversation.
Well, let's back up.
Yes.
When she orders the cocktail and the calamari together, I presume.
Yes.
Were you surprised because your offer was drinks?
Of course, yes. I was very surprised. I wasn't hungry. I ate beforehand. We said we were meeting for drinks specifically, and I just didn't think she was going to be ordering food. And I don't eat fried food like that either, Your Honor.
Right. Well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
The point is, as you said drinks, she starts ordering cuisine.
Exactly.
And you are shocked, but you don't say anything. You're just shocked. Now, at that point, because I'm just curious, were you contemplating the possibility that maybe there was going to be a split check at some point? Like maybe if she's hungry, she'll take care of her food, but allow you to treat her to cocktails because that was the nature of the agreed upon date?
I thought we were meeting up just for drinks,
Right.
and I thought she was going to maybe fit the bill for her, but what she did in the subsequent moments made me question that entire thing.
Okay, so yeah, what did she do then?
Well, by the time the waiter brings over the food and the margarita, she is on her phone. She's on social media, she's posting, and she starts acting like I'm not even there.
Coming up on Equal Justice.
She wasn't even done with the previous place before she starts ordering more food. And so she orders the salmon and the other drink, and I'm just fed up. I can't take it anymore. I'm seeing red. And I just decide I have to leave right now, else I'm going to make a big mistake.
This is Equal Justice. Equal Justice is back with a case of Cheryl Collins, who blames Jason Sutton for ghosting her mid-date.
What do you say about that, Ms. Collins? Were you working on this date?
Well, I am going to be taking photos and I am taking videos. I'm with
That's
a handsome
working.
young man, and I mean, I suppose, yes, considering the fact that I am an influencer, it
Correct.
is working.
Okay, so you're working on the date. You now feel...
I usually don't bring my work to a date,
and
Your
let's
Honor,
get to
but
that, sir. What do you do for a living?
I am a substitute teacher.
Okay, what grades?
K through 12, I'm able to
Go
sub
everywhere, you're certified?
Yes.
That's excellent, sir. Okay, so you work in education. You're now on a date. Your date shows up 45 minutes late. She immediately pulls out her phone and starts engaging and really working on the date.
Yes.
While she's ordered, so far, a calamari and a margarita.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And the waiter comes by again and still ignoring me, and she orders her second round of drinks and a crispy alligator. Another top shelf margarita, by the way. I'm getting really fed up at this point, as I think any reasonable man would be.
Okay.
And the waiter is about to come around a third time, but I said, let's try to give this one more chance. And I try engaging in a conversation with her, and I asked her about her father. She just ignores me. She doesn't even engage in the conversation, which calls into question everything else that came before.
Okay. When did she order the salmon, sir?
She ordered the salmon at the end. That was the third time they came around. Yeah, so she wasn't even done with the previous place before she starts ordering more food. And so she orders the salmon and the other drink, and I'm just fed up. I can't take it anymore. I'm seeing red. And I just decide I have to leave right now, else I'm going to make a big mistake.
Coming up on Equal Justice.
What lie did you make up to get out of this horrible situation?
Yes, I told her I was going to the restroom, and I beeline for my car, and I didn't look back.
Closed captioning provided by... This is Equal Justice. Equal Justice is back with a case of Cheryl Collins, who blames Jason Sutton for ghosting her mid-date.
What's a big mistake?
I felt like I would explode, Your Honor. I was just so angry and felt so disrespected.
Oh, well, okay. So how do you get out, literally? Like, how do you excuse yourself at the table?
Yes, Your Honor. I told her I was going to go to the restroom.
Right. Said another way, what lie did you make up to get out of this horrible situation?
Yes, I told her I was going to the restroom, and I beeline for my car, and I didn't look back.
Okay, so you never even went to the restroom?
No, I never went to the restroom. No.
Oh, Ms. Collins. Sir, do you have any evidence for the court?
I do, but I would just like to add,
Yeah.
the next day she did text me about this, and she said I was rude to fit her with the bill like that. And
She said you were rude.
she said I was rude. I told her she was rude to show up 45 minutes late, and
Right.
she was rude to ignore me and lie to me.
Okay.
So I did pay for my drinks, though. I sent her that money digitally, and I have that here for you as well.
Yeah, offer that up to the court. Woo-wee. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You're a clown for disappearing on our, quote, date and not paying. This is from the plaintiff. Defendant says, I said I wanted to meet for drinks, that's in caps, not dinner. Madam plaintiff says, you're just full of it and cheap. Defendant says, just sent you $20 for my drinks. Go find another sucker. I ain't the one. I do see where there was a digital $20 sent. Ma'am, did you receive this money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I don't think I have to hear any more from either of you two. I've seen this story before. The court is ready to rule. Now, nobody hates a cheap man more than me. Nobody.
Judge Eboni's verdict when Equal Justice returns. This is Equal Justice.
What this court will not condone is women or men coming into my courtroom under the guise of chivalry when what they're really doing is dating for dinner. Ma'am, you are dating for a meal. It's low integrity, it's anti-feminist, and for lack of a better term, it's trifling. Believe it or not, counterintuitive, you cheapen yourself. You cheapen yourself. You become a version of a type of prostitute. I'm just going to tell it to you plain, and I don't believe that's what you intend. Now, if this is a man you are seeing, if this is a man you are dating actively, if this is a man who you've invested time and energy into as well, then your expectation should rise according to that mutual investment. And then, Mr. Sutton, you do have to put up or shut up. But at this point, the court is not convinced that you did anything wrong. In fact, the court is convinced, ma'am, that you operated in bad faith, that you wasted this man's time. So the court completely dismisses the plaintiff's claim of $218.69. That is my ruling.
All rise.
Judge Eboni has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's case is dismissed.
The morning sun cast long and dignified shadows across the polished mahogany of the courtroom where justice was not merely a concept, but a living and breathing practice. At the center of this temple of law sat Judge Eboni K. Williams, a woman whose very presence commanded a unique blend of respect and curiosity. To understand the proceedings of this day, one had to first understand the woman behind the bench. She carried within her the warm hospitality of North Carolina, the soulful depth of Louisiana, the relaxed composure of the West Coast, and the sharp, uncompromising edge of New York City. She looked down at the nameplate before her, a simple piece of plastic that carried the weight of authority, and she knew that within these four walls, the only perspective that truly governed the outcome was her own. She was a woman who had dedicated her life to being a voice for those who felt unheard, a champion for integrity, freedom, and the most fundamental values of the country. The bailiff called the court to order, and the atmosphere shifted into a state of focused anticipation. Today, the docket held a case that seemed simple on the surface, but carried deep implications about modern romance, respect, and the hidden costs of a first date. On one side stood Cheryl Collins, a vibrant and meticulously styled woman who made her living as a social media influencer. On the other side stood Jason Sutton, a man with the patient and observant eyes of a dedicated educator. The dispute involved a sum of $218.69, a figure that represented much more than just a restaurant bill to the two individuals standing before the judge. Judge Eboni K. Williams began the proceedings by addressing the plaintiff. She noted that Cheryl Collins was suing Jason Sutton for the specific amount of $218.69. With a calm yet inquisitive tone, the judge asked the question that set the narrative in motion, asking why they were in court on this particular day. Cheryl, smoothing her dress and standing with the confidence of someone used to being in front of a camera, began her tale. She explained that on the 20th of May in the previous year, Jason had invited her out for a date, but had ultimately walked out on the bill, leaving her to handle the entire financial burden alone. The judge leaned forward, her interest piqued by the unconventional start to a romantic endeavor. She asked for the backstory, wanting to know how these two souls had crossed paths in the vast digital wilderness. Cheryl revealed that their connection started on social media. Jason had initiated contact by sending a direct message to her page, an act commonly referred to in the modern era as sliding into the direct messages. They had spent a couple of weeks engaging in conversation over the phone, building a rapport that eventually led to Jason suggesting a meeting in person. Initially, Jason had proposed simple outings, such as meeting for a cup of coffee or going out for ice cream. However, Cheryl had declined these suggestions for practical reasons. She explained to the court that she did not drink coffee and was lactose intolerant, which made an ice cream date an impossibility. After these initial hurdles, they eventually agreed on a dinner date for a Friday evening at 5:30. But as Cheryl admitted, the path to that Friday was paved with delays. She had to reschedule their meeting twice. The first instance was due to her professional obligations as a full-time social media influencer. She had been caught in a fashion shoot that lasted much longer than she had anticipated. Judge Eboni K. Williams paused to acknowledge this profession. She noted that while some might dismiss the work of an influencer, it was a legitimate and often lucrative career, with some individuals earning over $100,000 a year. She complimented Cheryl on her beautiful presentation in court, recognizing that maintaining such an image was part of her professional duty. Cheryl nodded in agreement, explaining that her second reason for rescheduling was far more personal. Her father had fallen ill, and since he lived nearby, she felt a strong responsibility to go and care for him. Eventually, the two managed to align their schedules. They set their meeting for 5:30 on a Friday afternoon. However, the theme of tardiness continued. Cheryl arrived at the restaurant at 6:15, making her 45 minutes late for their very first face-to-face encounter. When the judge pointed out that 45 minutes was a significant delay, Cheryl attempted to minimize it, citing traffic as the primary culprit. Judge Eboni K. Williams, ever the pragmatist, reminded her that such a delay rarely makes a favorable first impression, regardless of how much excitement might have existed beforehand. Despite the late start, the date began. Cheryl noted that Jason actually looked better in person than he did in his photographs, a rare and pleasant surprise in the world of online dating. She described him as not particularly photogenic, but quite handsome in reality. When she finally sat down, the conversation was brief and filled with basic pleasantries. Cheryl, feeling frantic and starving because she had not eaten all day, immediately ordered a margarita and an appetizer of calamari. She admitted to the court that she did not ask Jason if he wanted anything to eat, assuming that he would have ordered for himself if he were hungry. At that point, Jason already had a drink in his hand, having waited for nearly an hour for her arrival. As the proceedings continued, the judge turned her attention to Jason Sutton to hear his perspective on the evening. Jason, a substitute teacher who worked with students from kindergarten through 12th grade, spoke with a measured and honest tone. He confirmed the initial interest and the two failed attempts to meet. He expressed his frustration regarding the first cancellation, noting that Cheryl had informed him only 10 minutes before they were supposed to meet, after he had already driven to the location. Regarding the second cancellation involving her father, he had chosen to give her the benefit of the doubt, hoping for the best. When it came to the actual date, Jason clarified a crucial detail that stood at the heart of their disagreement. He insisted that he had explicitly invited Cheryl out for drinks during happy hour, not for a full dinner. He had chosen the 5:30 time slot specifically because it aligned with the restaurant discount period for beverages. He arrived early at 5:20, only to receive a call at 5:25 stating she would be a few minutes late. In his mind, a few minutes meant a short interval, but it turned into a 45-minute wait. By the time Cheryl arrived at 6:15, the happy hour for food had ended, and his patience was wearing thin. Jason described the moment Cheryl arrived. While he conceded that she was gorgeous and matched her photos, her behavior quickly dampened his spirits. Instead of a heartfelt apology for her extreme lateness, she gave a vague excuse. As soon as she sat down, she began ordering not just drinks, but a series of expensive food items. After the calamari and the first margarita, she ordered a second margarita and an entree of fried alligator. Jason was shocked, as he had eaten before coming and had only intended to share a few drinks. He watched in disbelief as the nature of the date shifted from a simple meet and greet into a multi-course feast that he had not agreed to fund. The situation escalated when the food arrived. According to Jason, Cheryl became entirely absorbed in her phone. She was taking photos and recording videos for her social media followers, effectively treating the date as a content creation opportunity rather than a social interaction. She was posting updates and acting as if Jason were not even sitting across from her. He felt completely ignored and disrespected. In an attempt to salvage the evening, he tried to engage her in conversation, specifically asking about her father's health, but his questions were met with silence as she continued to focus on her digital audience. The breaking point came when Cheryl ordered a third drink and a main course of salmon before she had even finished her previous plates. Jason, feeling a mounting sense of anger and feeling used for a free meal, decided he could not stay a moment longer. He feared that his frustration would lead to a confrontation he did not want to have. To exit the situation quietly, he told Cheryl he was going to the restroom. Instead of heading to the back of the restaurant, he walked straight to his car and drove away without looking back. The judge listened intently as Jason explained his actions. He admitted that he had lied about going to the restroom to escape a horrible situation. The following day, Cheryl had sent him a text message calling him rude for leaving her with the bill. Jason countered by telling her that she was the one who was rude for being 45 minutes late and for ignoring him throughout the evening. He had, however, sent her $20 via a digital payment app to cover the cost of his own drinks, refusing to be a sucker for a dinner he never intended to buy. Judge Eboni K. Williams reviewed the evidence, including the text messages and the receipt of the $20 payment. She looked at the two individuals before her and prepared to deliver her verdict. She spoke with a voice that was firm, yet filled with a desire to educate. She stated that while no one disliked a cheap man more than she did, this case was not about a lack of chivalry. It was about integrity and the misuse of the dating process. The judge addressed Cheryl directly, stating that she believed the plaintiff had operated in bad faith. She characterized Cheryl's behavior as dating for a meal, a practice she found to be low in integrity and contrary to the principles of modern respect. By arriving late, ignoring her date to work on her social media content, and ordering an expensive meal during an invitation that was clearly for drinks, Cheryl had cheapened herself and the experience. The judge emphasized that when someone invests their time and energy into another person, expectations should rise, but in a first meeting, mutual respect was the baseline. Because the court was convinced that Cheryl had wasted Jason's time and had taken advantage of his initial kindness, Judge Eboni K. Williams ruled in favor of the defendant. She completely dismissed the claim for $218.69. As the gavel struck the bench, the case was closed. Jason expressed his relief and his gratitude for the court's decision, noting that the greatest gift was never having to see Cheryl again. Cheryl, meanwhile, stood in disbelief as her attempt to hold him accountable for the bill ended in a public lesson about character and the true meaning of equal justice. The two walked out of the courtroom, leaving behind a story that would serve as a reminder that in the search for connection, honesty and respect are the only currencies that truly matter. In the grand halls of justice, where the echoes of truth and accountability resonate against the polished mahogany walls, the atmosphere was thick with the weight of expectation. The courtroom was a place of solemnity, yet it possessed a modern energy that radiated from the bench. Upon that bench sat a woman of formidable presence and undeniable grace. Her name was Judge Eboni K. Williams. She looked down at the nameplate that sat before her, a simple piece of material that carried immense authority. When she asked if the nameplate could be read, it was not merely a question of literacy, but an invitation to acknowledge the power of the law. Judge Eboni K. Williams was a woman whose identity was forged in the fires of diverse experiences. She often described herself as being from North Carolina by way of Louisiana, carrying with her a unique blend of West Coast cool and a sharp New York edge. To her, the only thing that mattered in this particular courtroom was the way she perceived the truth, guided by the principles of justice. The judge looked out at the individuals gathered before her. She understood that equal justice was the cornerstone of the values that held the country together. It was about freedom and integrity, the very thing she strove for in every ruling she handed down. She looked at a woman in the gallery and reminded her that while she might run her own household, every individual had the right to govern their own life. This was the reason Eboni had decided to become an attorney and pursue the law. She wanted to be a voice for those who felt voiceless, a shield for those who were vulnerable. However, she also knew that the court had its limits. It could not hold a person accountable if the foundations of the claim were not rooted in honesty. Her courtroom was a tapestry of humanity, welcoming people from all sectors of life, whether they were black or white, purple or any other hue, gay or straight or queer. This inclusivity was the heart of equal justice with Judge Eboni K. Williams. On this particular day, a new case was called to the stand. It was a dispute that seemed simple on the surface, but carried deeper implications about respect and social conduct. The plaintiff was Miss Cheryl Collins, a woman who carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to being seen. The defendant was Mr. Jason Sutton, a man whose expression was one of quiet frustration. The conflict began with a claim by Miss Collins that she had been left to pay a substantial bill after her first date decided to vanish in the middle of the meal. Mr. Sutton, on the other hand, argued that he had only invited her for drinks and that her behavior had been so dismissive that he felt he had no choice but to leave. The judge opened the proceedings by acknowledging the parties involved. She noted that Miss Collins was suing Mr. Sutton for the sum of $218.69. With a calm yet firm tone, the judge asked the plaintiff why they were in court that day. Miss Collins took a breath and explained that on the 20th of May in the previous year, Mr. Sutton had invited her out on a date and then proceeded to walk out on the tab. The judge raised an eyebrow, noting the seriousness of the accusation. She asked for more details, curious about how the two had met. Miss Collins revealed that she was a professional social media influencer. Mr. Sutton had discovered her page and, in the language of the modern era, had slid into her direct messages. They had engaged in conversation for a couple of weeks, chatting over the phone and getting to know one another. Originally, Mr. Sutton had suggested meeting for coffee or ice cream. However, Miss Collins had declined those invitations. She explained to the court that she did not drink coffee and was lactose intolerant, making ice cream a physical impossibility for her. The judge listened patiently as Miss Collins continued her story. After the initial rejections, they finally settled on a dinner date for a Friday at 5:30 in the evening. However, the path to this meeting was not smooth. Miss Collins admitted to rescheduling the date twice. The first time was due to her career. A fashion shoot had lasted much longer than she had anticipated. The judge acknowledged this, noting that being a full-time influencer was a legitimate way to pay bills and could be quite lucrative, sometimes earning over $100,000 a year. The second reschedule happened because the father of Miss Collins had fallen ill. Since he lived nearby, she felt a responsibility to go over and care for him. Eventually, their schedules aligned, and the date was set. They agreed to meet at 5:30 on a Friday. However, Miss Collins arrived at the restaurant at 6:15, making her 45 minutes late. Mr. Sutton, standing at his podium, made a point to emphasize that he had not failed mathematics and was well aware of the passage of time. Miss Collins claimed she had been stuck in traffic, an explanation that the judge met with a look of skepticism. When Miss Collins finally arrived at 6:15, she saw Mr. Sutton in person for the first time. The judge asked about his energy upon her late arrival, pointing out that being 45 minutes late rarely makes a positive first impression. Miss Collins admitted that his excitement might have been compromised by the wait. However, she noted that he looked even better than his pictures, which she found to be a pleasant surprise since many people are not as photogenic as their online profiles suggest. As they sat down, the interaction was filled with small talk and pleasantries. Miss Collins described herself as feeling frantic because of her lateness and claimed she had been apologetic. She immediately ordered a margarita, stating it was her favorite drink and that she was starving because she had not eaten all day. She also ordered an appetizer of calamari. When the judge asked if she had invited Mr. Sutton to order anything, Miss Collins admitted she had not, assuming he would have ordered if he wanted something. Mr. Sutton already had a drink, which the judge noted was a wise move for someone who had been waiting for over an hour. As the afternoon light filtered into the courtroom, the judge continued to listen to the unfolding narrative. Miss Collins described how she proceeded to order more food and drinks. After the calamari, she ordered a second margarita. She explained that she did not like to drink on an empty stomach, so she followed the first appetizer with a second one, fried alligator. The judge found the choice of fried alligator interesting, but noted it was still just a starter. For her main entree, Miss Collins ordered a salmon dish. By this point, she had consumed 2 margaritas, calamari, and fried alligator, with a third cocktail on the way. She provided an itemized bill to the court, which was handed to the bailiff for review. The judge then turned her attention to Mr. Sutton, thanking him for his patience. She wanted to hear his perspective on the events. Mr. Sutton confirmed that he had been interested in Miss Collins early on and had